Welcome to ValueMatrix.tv, where we bring unfiltered voices and strategic thinking to build better workplaces. I'm Royden Sarejo, and joining me today is Lakshmi Sridhar, a senior talent leader with over 2 decades of experience in the HR space. Welcome, Lakshmi, to the ValueMatrix.tv podcast. You can just give us a brief introduction and your professional background for our viewers and listeners.
Thank you for having me here, Royden. Glad to be here. I currently work with the leadership advisory firm called Mercury Ural, and I'm based in Bangalore. Like you said, I come with about 20 plus years of experience, having done multiple things over my long years of work. An engineer by qualification, started with a manufacturing organization and then moved into HR and recruitment fairly early in my career. I've also played a role in executive and corporate hiring with the IT services firm called Microland. Currently, Mercury Urval is a Swedish leadership advisory and executive hiring firm.
Looking back, maybe 5 years or even longer, compared, traditional hiring compared to now, how we have different new technology and science-based data to help us get the right person. How do you see the talent acquisition landscape? How much has it changed, especially in the recent years? We've had AI coming into play as well.
When you look at the junior level hirings, probably it is changing from just filling the seat or filling the open position to actually thinking on, where is that position fitting strategically, or looking at the candidates in terms of, are these candidates going to be adding value to the organization a couple of years later? One of the HR leaders that I know speaks of this term called polymath engineers, where we are just not hiring for one skill, right? We are looking at people who will be able to be agile and develop new skills. But when you look at it at a senior level, I think the shift is a lot on what they have done earlier and how they've done it to what they will be able to do for my organization further, and how do people manage the ambiguity and how will they be able to manage the growth in such an environment is something which people are focusing on.
Since you are mostly you worked with talent advisory firms, right? You're also looking at getting candidates for various industries across demographics. For the clients, they are looking for people who will come in for the long term, especially when you're hiring senior executive or leadership roles, right? From your perspective, like what are the metrics that you would look for when you're profiling a candidate or presenting that to the client? Like, how do you predict that this candidate would be there for the long haul, or they would do well even a few years down the line?
I think building the success profile in the context of the organization is extremely important, and that's what we typically work towards when we really start looking at a hiring for any, especially a seniorish level role. At some point in time, your experience, your success, your credibility in your previous experiences become a given. We rely a lot on psychometric assessment, and we do suggest our clients to look at that as a very strong part of the selection process, because that's where we really try to align the person's motivations, the person's strengths, to what is required for the success of the role, and predict the long term success as well. Because the motivations may not always be just, I need a higher designation or a money or something else, right? So all of these needs to be tailored in very, very well to fit the role, and that's when we see success.
Okay. For the prediction part, you obviously would rely on some kind of technology or tool to help you guide you for this.
We ourselves have a very, very robust psychometric assessment tool, which is a proprietary tool.
Are there some industries that you found where finding the right candidate for a senior leadership position to be more challenging versus maybe some other industries? Any particular thing that has stood out to you?
I think the challenges would remain more in terms of the organization maturity and how the organization is looking at the entire process of hiring. Once they are clear on what they're looking for, then it is easier.
How does AI factor in or affect the talent acquisition side of things? Is it making life easier? Is it or what are the challenges essentially?
Tasks where we need a lot of research verification documents and things like that is where we typically end up using AI. Coordination and admin related tasks which could be automated, but then when it comes to the real candidate discussions, or where you need to put in some thoughts on the nuances of what is mentioned in the CV or the discussions with the candidate and how it fits to the context. So it definitely is going to be more routine tasks where we have used.
When you are basically approaching or finding candidates for organizations and clients, how does culture fit play into this, and how much of weightage would you give culture fit?
It is quite significant because ultimately someone could be the star performer in their previous organization, but if they are in a different environment which they are not used to, until and unless the environment is supportive, they may not really succeed there and would lead to early attrition. So we do definitely take a lot of cognizance of this fact when we are hiring. And so culture is a very loosely defined term, right? So it could mean different for different organizations. And of course, we do have the assessments, which are multiple discussions that happen, and a psychometric assessment, which would also align the person's personality profile into the success profile. So that is how we try to integrate this. But understanding the definition of culture, what it means to the organization, is extremely important.
There are, I'm sure you've seen it, but a lot of times whatever is in the resume is doesn't always turn out to be true because these are AI generated and built using tools to match the keywords that are there, let's say in the job description. How does this affect the hiring process essentially?
So, resume is just a starting point. We do not really place importance beyond, okay, it takes the hygiene factors. After that, the number of discussions that we have with the candidates, these are multiple levels of discussions that we have. This is when we peel the onion, you understand the personality, you understand what made them successful and what is it that they're looking for in the future, the aspirational success, and how does that match with the profile that we are looking for.
When you're looking to train new hires, and how do you see that a certain hire has a potential to take on future leadership position?
The psychometric assessment plays a very, very important role, and that's a very important part of our hiring process. That makes it objective. Go beyond a gut feel of the person has been successful there and will be successful here. I think these level of assessments would, the personality and the psychometric assessment would play a huge role in predicting future success. We call it predictive assessment actually.
It does happen sometimes that after somebody does join that particular company, they realize that it's not really what it's shown in, let's say, the brochure or the website. It's the company culture internally is actually quite different from what is portrayed outside. So to avoid that disappointment in candidates, how do you ensure that whoever is getting hired for that company, there is satisfaction after the candidate joins?
Many of the our clients are long-term clients, so we know about how the organization is, so we can portray that to the candidates. The organizations need to be very, very conscious about, and they need to maintain culture, the employee experience, what they have portrayed, that okay, this is what you're going to get. It's a little difficult for us from an external perspective to maintain.
Throughout your career, if you have had experience hiring or recruiting for this younger generation?
I think the expectations of the current generation is very different in terms of what they are looking for in a job. There is a lot of work that needs to be done there.
AI is evolving really quickly, and in a few years, technologies like behavioral sciences comes into the picture as well. Do you think maybe we'll reach a point where AI is able to complete talent acquisition process for roles that would typically require a seasoned professional?
The way it is right now, I feel that the human intervention is definitely needed. A lot of data can be picked up from AI or bots. The emotional intelligence probably is not something that's going to be replaced. So I don't think that the entire process can be automated, honestly.
My final question would be for somebody starting out their journey from now in the HR space. What is the one skill or maybe skills you think that they really need to hone in on?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question at this point in time. So I think we just need to look at what AI can't replace, and we need to be very good at it. Right? So be curious, keep learning, broaden your spectrum, polymath. So the more you can interconnect the dots from the data and be very, I don't know, maybe it's not the right thing to say, but still be very skeptical on whatever information is provided and, by AI, and try to get the right thing out of it.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi, for coming on this episode. It was lovely speaking to you, and we hope to have a very exciting conversation soon again later in the future.
Thank you so much for having me here.
To all our viewers and listeners, don't forget to follow us on social. Until next time, thank you so much.